Our Mother Tongue is one of my favorite resources when it comes to English grammar. Although it is a thorough guide to English grammar, it is not cumbersome. It's a pretty thin book. It's split up into different units. Unit 1 is the 8 parts of speech. Unit 2 is the sentence, and it takes you through subjects, predicates, kinds of sentences, and parts of speech used within a sentence, as well as clauses and sentence structures. And then it takes you into special properties of nouns and pronouns, verbs, verbals, and then modifiers. Okay, so it starts with an introduction to English grammar based upon God's Word. And so it is definitely a Christian basis for studying English grammar. The first unit is one that I've even used with my 6-year-old. We haven't done all of the lessons on paper, but we have used a lot of this just doing it orally. So it's going to take you into nouns, pronouns, verbs, adverbs, and so on and so forth. First, each lesson in the first unit begins with some examples of what that particular part of speech is, along with an explanation and a definition. And then it has some various exercises that use that particular part of speech. And so this is an instance where I have used this lesson out loud with our 6-year-old who is in kindergarten. And so it tells you to list 2 nouns for each of the categories. So it's a pretty simple exercise that can be done as long as the child understands what a noun is. And so then there's exercise B, there's some multiple exercises, and then it goes into a little bit more detail, common versus proper nouns. And so each unit has about 4 or 5 exercises. And so most of those can be used for younger children just by doing out loud. The thing I like about this book is that it allows you to build upon it. You can put just a basic foundation with the 8 parts of speech and just use parts of each of those units until your child gets to where they understand better and are ready to apply the information. So you can come back through the parts of speech and layer that information by doing some of the exercises maybe they didn't understand before. As you get into some of the latter pieces, it starts to introduce diagramming. And so the other thing is that it has review in it. It's incorporated throughout, so it's very handy to really learn the English grammar rather than just briefly go over something and then subsequently forget. Okay, so here's something about kinds of sentences. So you have declarative, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory, and then you have some exercises that you can do. So for younger students, again, you can do those out loud, and then you can see that, okay, now we get into adjectival phrases. And so it builds and it builds, and then it goes into diagramming sentences. And it's just such a great resource because then you can get into things like gender, which are very complicated and a lot of adults don't even understand. But all in all, this book is only 180 pages, and so it's pretty thin. Okay, it's not really huge. But it just gives a biblical basis for studying English grammar and makes it very simple to do so.